Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To welcome you once again on this rather beautiful Wednesday evening in Johannesburg. And the reason why I'm saying it is beautiful is much more pleasant than what we've been accustomed to in the last few weeks. Alhamdulillah, very, very pleasant surroundings. And this is Wednesday nights with myself, Inayet Wadee, where we take a look at a whole host of issues. Now, this evening, we're going to be moving away from politics, at least for the first hour of the show. And it is a politics of a different time, politics of a home, politics of a woman. And we are talking about a book which I found rather interesting. In fact, a few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of meeting the author, Fatima Abdul Rahman, and she was gifting this book, and she was looking for one male and one female, and fortunately I was a recipient of this book, and I just squished through this book briefly, and immediately I requested Fatima. I said, Fatima, I need to interview you because this book is about Fatima, but it is also about thousands of women that experience exactly the same issues, the same challenges, and also looking at some of the hurdles and, more importantly, overcoming these hurdles. And the book is called Be You Unapologetically. And I'm actually going to show this book on the screen as we welcome our listeners and our viewers uh, of Salam Media this evening. And this is the title of the book. But it is also about women and for women that are ready to find their own identity after being lost in storms of marriage. And we know when marriages take place, there are storms, in fact, to the point that these become devastating storms. And there are many, many women that don't even recover from these storms. Now, a word about Fatima Abdul Rahman is she is a proudly South African Indian Muslim woman, born and grown up in Pretoria. She is a daughter, a sister, a wife, a mother, a poet, an author, relationship and mind power coach, entrepreneur, inspirational speaker, avid mountain climber, and a woman of substance. And when I had gone through this book, and when I had just looked at the end of the book, and when I saw the acknowledgments, and these acknowledgments from her husband to daughters, her brother, friends, and these acknowledgments actually speak volume about Fatima, about her book. And the one that drew my attention came from her niece, Yusra, who said that she is a force, she is strength, she is courage, she is power, she is a woman. The easiest kind of strength to have is physical, but emotional strength is more of a challenge. But it is a challenge you have always so gracefully overcome. With the brightest smile and the kindest heart, you have overcome mountains and dove through oceans. You have soared through the skies and you have crawled on the ground. You have been through it all and you have come back stronger. You are a woman. You are invisible. And this is who we are talking to this evening, right here on Salam Media on Wednesday nights with myself, Inayet Wadee. And my pleasure to welcome this evening to the show Fatima Abdul Rahman.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Inayet?
Glad to and welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me today.
Yes, Fatima, when we met, and immediately as you handed this book over to me, and the request for this interview had come about because I believe there's just so much to talk about. I mean, it's not a huge book, it's not a massive book, but clearly there are gems in here. There's just so much from your own life experiences that many people can actually take away. And this is what we want to talk about this evening. We want to talk about some of your life experiences, but also more importantly, when you speak about women that have been lost in storms of marriage, those few words just means so much. It has deep meaning. It has great meaning. And when you're saying "Be You Unapologetically," and let's start. Let's start with the title of this book. How did that come about?
So the title of the book is has come from my niece. She suggested something to me when I was climbing the mountain at Mount Kilimanjaro. When before we went to Mount Kilimanjaro, we had to compile a few, encouraging notes from family members, and where people will remind you that you're so great and you're invincible and you can do everything. And she wrote something that she said to me. She calls me Chachi because I'm her Chachi, and she said, "Chachi, you are so." Just be you, be yourself unapologetically, because that's the best of who you are. And was closed. That was like a couple of years before. And when I was searching for a title, I couldn't find the right title. But the reason why I chose this title eventually just came to me is because I want women to find out who they really are. We're so masked by what people tell us. Sometimes our husbands are the ones that make us feel that we are not good enough, and then we forget the real essence of who we are. And that is why I decided this is going to be beautiful, because I want us as women to stand up for ourselves and be ourselves unapologetically. It means do not apologize for who we are, but that does not mean be just stay within your morals, stay within your beliefs, stay within your core values, but don't be afraid to be the best of who you are, because we are masked by other people's beliefs and the negative beliefs that we carry ourselves, that we do not really know how strong we are and how beautiful and how loving we are, because we don't sometimes get the chance to experience it, and we're looking always for validation outside. So I want every woman to be you unapologetically, because you deserve it. And that is where the title came from.
Well, certainly, and also I think you make reference to that in your introduction, where you
Yes.
speak about what it really means. It means to be confident. It means to be true to your integrity, and not changing your personality to suit others, but also in a value system, living by example. And this is exactly what you are talking about. But coming back to this book, and clearly, this book was driven by your own experiences in life.
Yeah.
And some of these experiences are not easy. And you make mention of that also in your introduction, where you speak about in every person's life, there is always some tragedy. You speak about whether it's in relationships, children, career, many storms that people come across and experience in their lives. And the key issue is weathering those storms. Some people will recover quicker, others obviously will take a lot more. But again, coming back to a person experiencing difficulty, experiencing tragedies in their life. And that is a bitter lesson to learn. But I'm sure, for you, that was a lesson, and that lesson later on proved to be a motivating force for you in more ways than one. So let's just go back. Let's go back. Let's talk about some of the storms that you've had to weather in your life.
Okay, so in the beginning, when I was just married, so I come from a very humble beginnings. My parents were not rich or anything, just lived the average lifestyle. Went to every school, lived in a very lower part of Lodium, very not very rich area, very average area. So I came from very humble beginnings, but when I got married, I married the man of my dreams, and this man came from. He was a foreigner, but I just met him and we connected. And I thought this was the man for me. He's my man, my dream man. And he was genuinely a wonderful person. So after we got married and everything went, we worked, both of us worked and all of that, and then I got my first child. My first child was after 2 years of marriage, and at 6 months of 6 months of conception, we found out that she had a brain tumor. So doctors told us we would advise you to terminate pregnancy because we don't know what can happen. And absolutely, there was uh, not even a doubt in my mind that I wanted to do this. I just said no, and we that was final. So doctors followed up and everything, and baby was born. She did have a tumor. Luckily, it was a benign tumor, but the problem was it was building up. Fluid in her brain. So we had to put in a shunt. We had to remove the tumor after 1 month. So the tumor was removed, but then the fluid was still building up, and so we ended up with a little shunt, which is now she lives with forever. The result of that was she ended up having um, cerebral palsy, a very slight cerebral palsy on her left hand side because the tumor was on the right hand side of the brain. So having to deal with all of that as a mother, as parents, it was a challenge which we took on head on and very this is a test from Allah. Like, I mean, how much do you trust me? And I had no doubts that she will be fine. Alhamdulillah, she did walked her milestones a little late. And she walked only at 2 years old, and then she started talking only after that. But Alhamdulillah, she's now today 25 years old. She's completed a matric, and she's a really beautiful child. She's my right hand girl, right hand lady next to me all the way. Through all my storms, she stood with me. So that was the first part of where my storms had started. Then at 5 years of marriage, my husband, I found out that he was having an affair with one of our staff at the shop because we had just started a business. And I was very, very, very upset about it because I loved him so much and I did everything I could possibly do for my in-laws, for my husband, I tried to make everyone happy. And but I wasn't really happy. But I mean, with all of that, I said it doesn't matter. I've got a child. I'm not gonna leave this marriage because my beliefs are commitment, and I will stand for what I believe. And marriage is sacred. It's not something you walk in and walk out whenever you feel like. That's what I was brought up with. So I said I'm gonna fight this marriage. I'm gonna fight for what I want because this is my husband, my life. I'm not gonna walk out and give it over to somebody else. And having to deal with that pain, it was very, very, very challenging because I lost my trust in my marriage. I lost I didn't know what was it's like a carpet being pulled out of your legs where you now have no grounding because all my core values of what a marriage should be just disintegrated like that. So I just had to look within myself that what am I now? And this is where I didn't have an ident. I realized I didn't have an identity. I knew I was somebody's wife. I knew I was a mother. I knew I was a daughter, but I didn't know who I was. For the first time, I had to ask myself, who is Fatima? Who am I? And this is where I think this started the journey of self-discovery, of finding out who I was, what I presented. But still, it takes a long time. But I started learning to use my mind for better things, for focusing on the good things, for teaching, for being a role. Number one, being a role model for my children because I had one child, but then I thought family members, a friend, a very dear friend of mine, and she was a good influence to me, more like a mother figure. She encouraged me to not walk out of a marriage, stay in there, make it work. It will work. Just don't give up. And so I had another child, but then the relationship didn't get better. Um, he ended up then finding someone else, and then he ended up getting married to that woman as a second marriage. Now, as we know, Islam allows the men for women, but with permission of your first wife. And I didn't get the liberty of being asked. I was just told. In fact, I was told after everybody, the whole world knew about it. Then I found out that this is what happened. So I think the first time it was difficult, but having to be betrayed over a few times, it becomes very difficult to say, where is my place and what am I? I mean, don't I have any value at all? But I realized that I didn't give myself value enough to realize who I really was. And but I still wasn't willing to give up. I accepted the relationship, the second relationship that came with my husband, and I mean with his second wife. And then also there was a child that was born out, and then there was another child that was born out. But in this time that this happened, my kids were struggling to manage with the other children, and So it was a whole lot of family dynamics. Nobody was happy. And I think second wives find it even harder to fit in, though I felt like I had to open my whole life for somebody to come into my life. It's difficult for everyone. It's not easy for anyone. But I didn't want to give up. And Alhamdulillah, with that perseverance, with strength that I got only from Allah, because I said, Ya Allah, if you do not hold my hand, I will have nobody. I will be lost. And I think that's what kept my strength, my faith, that I know something will come out of this. I just must not give up. I didn't want to tell my family, my parents, they were old, and I didn't want to tell them to bother them. And even though they knew something wasn't right, they didn't ask me, they could see that I was handling my thing. I did see a psychologist for 10 years. I did go on to antidepressants for 10 years. Alhamdulillah, I managed to come off that. That is why I decided to write my book. Because I felt if I could go through this, then and I could still survive this, then there are so many women that are out there that need someone to show them that, you know what, it's not impossible. If you really, really believe something, if you believe in something, then you can go for it. You don't have to always listen to other people. Now, I had a lot of people in my life that told me, you can just let go, it's not going to work out. And I had other people that told me, no, this is a good space, he's a good man. He was a good man, he always treated me well, never there was a little bit of verbal abuse, but never physical abuse. So I think I know verbal abuse is actually harder sometimes, because you can handle a slap on your face, but when somebody tells you something that you're not like, something like you're not feminine enough, and because I had to ask the question, what was the whole reason? Why did you do this? And that was the answer eventually. And he did apologize afterwards, but at that time it hurt a lot. But those were the storms I went through. And then that's why I
Yes.
decided I'm going to climb a mountain, and that was my turning
Yes,
point.
Fatima. In fact, Fatima, I think you obviously make where you speak about physical and verbal abuse, and you make mention of it in the book where you speak about a slap across my face would actually hurt less. But again, it's all about how you feel at that point in time, and you speak about it. You said you felt like you were worth nothing. You felt worthless, and all of this is a result of betrayal, and also looking at the one chapter where you speak about rejection, and you speak about why rejection is so painful, you know and this obviously is difficult, and I'm sure that many women are actually go through exactly what you had actually gone through. But at the end of the day, how do you pick up the pieces? I mean, how do you get up? How do you weather that storm? How do you evaluate what choices you have in life and which is the best choice you need to make to get out of it?
Yeah, how do you evaluate? So I remember sitting at my psychologist's chair, waiting to meet her, and outside, and she'd given me an assignment, and she said, "Do you want a divorce or do you want to stay in this marriage?" And I had to make the decision. And so what I did, I made a list of all the positives of staying in the marriage, and I made a list of all the negatives of staying in the marriage, and I weighed that, and I seen which was what was gonna what would that net total come to. And then I made a list of all the negatives of leaving the marriage, and all the positives of leaving the marriage, and then I measured that, and I weighed the two against each other, and my heart, I followed my heart, to be honest. So my heart said, no, I think I'll be able to manage better with him, because I did love him very much, and my children needed a father, and I wouldn't want them to. I've always had a father my whole life. I don't know how my kids are going to survive without that, because if we don't live together as a family, I don't know then how that I don't know what to expect if that's not going to be the way I think it should be. So I had a vision for my family, and I wanted to keep it that way. So that is how I evaluated why I should stay in the marriage. And I know it's not the same for everyone else, but this was my situation. And everyone else has got their own situation. So you have to measure your own, evaluate your own, see what works for you. But I do know if I followed my heart, I was happier than following my mind. And that's how I survived. It's because I was always feeling at ease in my
Yes.
heart that I did the right thing. I felt like I did the right thing.
And obviously, throughout this time, being a mother as well. And, you speak about your parents. Obviously, your parents were elderly and you didn't want to burden. And just looking at support, because support structures are extremely important at a time like this and at a time when you are going through these storms and also trying to weather the storms. And just looking at and obviously looking at your children as well. So you had to be a mother, you were a daughter, you were a wife as well, and going through all of this and trying to keep your sanity, for want of a better term. I mean, how challenging was it?
It was very challenging. I used to write poetry to let out the feelings that I was having, and I would write this, and I said, I feel like I die every day, and I live the next day, because everything that he does, I've always got this sinking feeling in my heart, or on my stomach. When he's going out, where is he going? So we always like became like a James Bond all the time because I was like always wondering, investigating, because the trust is just not the same anymore. So it wasn't a nice feeling. It was really you're always on edge. You can't be relaxed. It was the very very challenging. If I look back now, and I was much younger then. But I think I made a decision, and I had a reason, because I just did. I think my kids were one of my main reasons. I needed to see their futures better, and I also felt like this is the one true love that I have, and I'm not going to give him up for anyone. I know him because I met him, and I know his personality. He just kind of went off track for a while, for a long while actually. But I never gave up because I remember the person that he was, and I know he. Sometimes when we get, well, we had no money first, and then we got a lot of businesses, and things were going very well. So I think we get sidetracked when we got too much, and it happens. But just to keep Iman intact, I didn't want to lose this, and I didn't want my own Iman. I didn't want to lose my own standards for myself. I didn't want to go and do the same thing that he'd done just to get revenge or something like that. Because then, what does that make me? And what kind of a role model will I be then for everybody else around, especially for my children? So I made a decision that I will do what I have to. I will stay as a wife, and I will find my way through. And obviously, I did have support. I had friends. I joined mind power groups. I started learning self development to control the way I'm thinking, control the way I'm feeling, and focus on other areas, because my full focus was my husband. So when our relationship didn't work as I thought, then everything fell apart because I didn't focus on anything else. So then I developed my friendships. I developed, the other causes. I started building myself up. And then I went for my dreams. So then I started living my own life.
Well, it's obviously, you've done so much basically in your life, and you've achieved so much. And even when you were faced with the choices, and you make mention of this in the book, whether if you stay married, what will the positives be? What would the negatives be? If you got divorced, what would the positives and negatives be? And you had this opportunity, Alhamdulillah, to take a step back, to sit, to ponder, to reflect, and to weigh these options very, very carefully, which many women who get caught up in the entire emotions of stormy relationships, for want of a better term, they don't look at it that way, because you become an emotional wreck, for want of a better term, and you're not thinking straight. And Alhamdulillah, you had that opportunity, Fatima, to think straight.
Yes, I did. Alhamdulillah. I had a lot of time on my hands, and I had a lot of opportunities to look at other avenues of growth. If my marriage wasn't doing well, I grew in other areas. So that built my confidence in myself. When I at first felt low self esteem, or I can say no self esteem, I started building my self esteem, and I realized my value. And the best part is my husband could see my value when he had someone else to compare me with. Before that, he couldn't see my value, because when you have two variables and you can see what's better in different ways, you actually realize then what he had was a diamond, and he almost threw me away for without realizing my value before he could. So, and
Yes.
luckily I didn't go away because I also knew my value and I was going to stand in my power and be a winner no matter what. And it happened.
Well, definitely. But also, I think at the end of the day, it is about empowerment, Fatima.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
often we hear this term, empowerment of women.
yes,
And, sometimes we look at empowerment in a materialistic sense.
yeah,
Women are empowered in a job, women are empowered in a career, women are empowered. But just in terms of personal empowerment, personal growth, to become the person that who you are at this point in time, and empowering yourself to address difficult situations, empowering yourself to address and to overcome challenges in your life. Just generally, your thoughts on empowerment and why this self empowerment, I would say, is just so important for women to think about and to consider seriously.
I think definitely self-empowerment is very important because we as women are nurturers and we are constantly doing everything for everyone else, but we leave ourselves out for last, and that is absolutely the wrongest thing to do because if we don't fill our cup every day to make sure we are happy, we are secure inside with ourselves. That means loving ourselves and doing things for ourselves because we will do for our kids, we'll do for our husbands, we'll do for everybody, friends, family, in laws, whoever it is, we'll do that, but we forget ourselves. But so I think that's why self empowerment becomes vital to look at yourself first, to fill yourself up, to do things that matter to us, and to make it feel like you know what I have the inner happiness. Now I can spread the joy, and I won't lose any of it because I've already got my share. And I think that's where we all go. We all falter. We actually we brought up with this notion that you have to do everything for everyone else, and what's told us when what was told to me when I was young is when you get married you must do everything for your husband, make him happy and all of that. But not once did they ever tell me you know look after yourself first and then do everything for everyone else at the same time. Because if I you know if we know what to do, then we can do everything, and that's where we empower ourselves. And I actually would like to share. We have it's a South African online morning 1 hour session we have every day. It's for anyone that's welcome to join, that wants to join. It's where we do some self silence and we, you know, go within ourselves and then we discuss a topic like self love or confidence or whatever it can be, which empowers us. So when we start the morning, before, after our prayer, after Fajr Salah, we do this and it's like every morning thing we get something fresh in our mind and the day starts and then we can handle our families help handle everyone else and still do our work and do our home run the house and run the you know do everything for everyone else because we fill our cups that way when we learn how to handle love for ourselves. And that's where self-amount it starts from there. Apart from growing yourself and learning new things and trying new things and you know you just find that little spark of happiness for yourself. It's time for yourself. Taking out time is so important. Apart from doing everything else that we have to do or that we chose to do, there's always time to make for ourselves. That's where self empowerment starts. So it can be many things, even exercise, eating well, making that cup of tea just to relax after you've had a really hectic day. Just sit down, put your feet up, and just have your tea. It's your moment. um, and these are so important. No one's going to tell you, oh, you're so tired. Please go lie down. You have to do it yourself. And women are exhausted most of the time. But still, we ignore it. And that's when health starts deteriorating. And we just think, oh, no, it's part of life. It's not part of life. You deserve to be healthy and happy at the same time.
Parima, a question I need to ask you. Were you always, uh, I think we have Fatima is talking. I think we seem to have a bit of a lag.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay. Sorry, Fatima. I
Yeah.
think we just had a bit of a lag.
Oh, okay.
I just want to talk about, your adrenaline rush. Because I think,
Yeah.
you talk about trying new things. I mean, were you always one that, got this great feeling from an adrenaline rush? Because in your book, you speak about skydiving, you speak about Mount Kilimanjaro. And I'm sure that, that helped a long way in who you are in terms of shaping your personality. I mean, you've always had a personality, but sometimes there are certain things that we achieve in life that actually enhances your personality and takes you to another level.
Yeah.
Were you an adrenaline junkie, for want of a better term?
Not really. I was a very shy girl, very introverted. Um, I wouldn't try and do. Well, once I sang in front of my school. That was like the greatest thing I ever done. But other than that, I was just very shy and quiet. I didn't wouldn't try new things. I think it's when I started my first um, adventure thing I did was a scuba dive with my husband. We went on holiday, and he encouraged me to do it. So he was this person who would try new things. So I think he he encouraged me to do this initially for the scuba dive. But when we went for the skydive, I had my four. We were four friends, very good friends, and we decided, let's try this, let's do this. So I think we became empowered with each other, and that's how we first did the skydive, and then same group of friends went for Mount Kilimanjaro. So I think it's the group I hung out with. I think I always had the adventure in me. I just didn't realize that I had it. Um, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was so beautiful.
Yes. Now, all of us, obviously, you are a life coach as well, and you
Yes.
inspire many people, but I'm sure you have also been inspired by many people in your life. And one of them that you make mention is Sadatullah Khan as well. And we know, very, very prominent, very well known life coach, and I'm sure that, hey, you have been inspired a lot by looking at some of these people, reading what they've written about. That must have helped a lot.
Yes, definitely. Sadhguru Khan was, I think, one of my first mentors that I connected with, and it was so. I think I was looking, sometime when you're looking for most of the time when you're looking for something, and when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So I was looking for some kind of someone to help me with my problem, and then a friend of mine arranged a meeting with the two of us. So he helped me to find forgiveness. That was my first step of growth, coming out of this. It takes a long time, but every step counts towards being successful in whatever it is that we want. So yeah, forgiveness was one thing that I learned from him. He helped me actually through that small that actually was quite a big moment, a breakthrough moment, where I had to say myself that I forgive. Yeah, so that was, besides him, there were I Tony Robbins was the first person that I interacted, not directly. I bought tapes. Those days we had these tapes that we used to buy, and CDs, and it was a 30-day set. Every day I had to play one, and I had to do assignments and learn from that. So that was my first inspiration of looking within myself. That's how I figured out a little bit of who I am, what I want, how to make better decisions. And so that was the beginning. And then I got involved with Robin Banks. And this is the beautiful part of it is I started through a friend of mine. I connected with Robin Banks, and he's our international mind speaker, mind coach, mind expert, I think, yeah, expert. And he's now international. He's South African, but he's international. And for so many years, I was an avid student. I would go for all the talks. I would be a student, take the mind power course. And my husband was actually encouraged. He looked at me and he thought, I wonder what she's doing. And he joined because of me. Otherwise, he was very skeptical. So somehow I brought him on board to start thinking a little differently, to start looking at life a little differently. And together we would attend the courses, and that brought us a little closer as well. And then I branched off, and then I met, and also I listened to like Les Brown and lots of other, and Oprah Winfrey. She's one of my very, very inspirational leaders. I love to listen to her. So there's lots of, and Louise Hay. So there's lots of people that I follow, and I learn from. So every person is different. Everyone has something great to share. And I would like to be a motivational speaker in the future. The next, I call myself the next, possibly next Tony Robbins. It's just a thought, it's an idea, but I think I would really love to be that for women, show them what's possible. So we do
Yes,
need mentors. Definitely, we need mentors to help us.
definitely. Fatima, I see you've got a chapter, forgiveness and acceptance. Now, these
Yeah.
are two very, very difficult things to do for anybody.
Yes.
You'll find that people find it very hard to forgive. Some people find it very, very hard to even ask for forgiveness. But also in terms of acceptance, and you speak of this as well in the same chapter. And I know that there are many women that are faced with the situation, the challenges of living in a polygamous marriage. Now, we'll find that many women can't accept, number one. And if you don't accept, you are not going to forgive. And that is why I say is these two words are so linked, so closely together. And I just want your thoughts. I just want your thoughts because you say that it is challenging. If there is a first wife, it's difficult for her to adapt, to accept that she is sharing somebody with her husband. And obviously, the second wife again comes expectations, and then there's this whole issue surrounding comparisons that are made. Whether it's the first, second, third, or even fourth wife, but there are always these comparisons are being made. And how does one actually deal with scenarios like this?
So, yeah, definitely the first, being, I can speak from my point of view because I was the first wife, and you start to wonder like what is wrong with me. That's the first thing, and that's where self-esteem comes in. You first ask yourself what is wrong with me, why did he have to do this. But then when the other woman comes in, you start to compare yourself against her, like what's better about her, why, you know it's natural. Women want to compare themselves, that why did you choose someone else over me, or why am I not good enough. These are the questions that keep coming up. And I think generally women do compare themselves against each other, especially when they're competing now. Who's gonna be loved more? Uh, and it's very, very challenging because sometimes don't realize, you don't know where you are, because and the husband is trying to balance everything. It's very challenging. You can't balance. You can't make everyone happy, and a lot of stress goes onto the husband himself because he is dealing with stress, pressure, and it's not easy. If the men are listening to this, please think 20 times before you decide to take a second wife in this day and age, because you will go through a lot of heart, I'm so sorry to say, heart problems and stress and strokes and all of these things, because it comes with the pressure that comes with taking on this responsibility. But as a woman, I would say, if you learn to accept that this is a situation, and this is why I say, I eventually found out that when a man takes another wife, he needs to ask permission from the first wife, or at least let her know that I'm going to be marrying another wife. It's a little bit easier to accept it. But when you do not have a choice, you just hear that this has been done already. It becomes it's like forcing something down your throat which you don't want to eat. It's very difficult to swallow that. But when you've been given a choice that, I'd like your permission, it's courteous, it's more easy to digest, it's more easy to accept. But at the end of it, if it's done already, you choose, if I'm going to accept it, it'll be easier for me to handle it. The minute you accept something, it becomes less resistant. You're resisting less, and you start to now look for a way around it. But when you're saying no, and then whatever resist will persist, because the more you say no, the more you're going to get this in your face. So, it's better to accept. And our Quran tells us, and immediately I would go back to Quran, see what is the rules for having a second wife, having a first wife, and it tells us that the second wife is not allowed to ask the husband to divorce the first wife because he wants to get married. So she doesn't have that right. So it's my right then to choose to stay or to go. So I chose to stay. So if I didn't accept it, then I would have to probably I would leave. I said I don't accept it. Sorry, I'm gonna leave. So then the acceptance becomes difficult to accept. But I mean, it's very hard to accept even. But if you know why and you've got children, if you don't have children, maybe it's easier not to accept. But if you do have children, stories are different. It's a whole other ball game. You got to think of the future generation also, what is going to become of them. And I think in this day and age, having a stepfather for my kids is not safe. I don't think, it's very difficult to trust just anyone if I had to remarry or find someone else. It's very difficult. So I prefer to be with someone I knew, especially because I needed my girls. I've got two girls. I needed them to be safe because you hear of lots of things happening, and the reality is there. So you got to look at everything holistically. It's not just for the moment. I know people say, how can your kids are even more unhappier in the marriage? But it depends how you handle it. If you manage to give them a positive space, then they will be okay with it. They will grow through it because it doesn't make it easier without. Doesn't make it easier in a divorce either. So you just have to weigh and see which one am I prepared to do, and this is what I was prepared. So yeah, acceptance and then forgiveness comes after that.
Yes, but also I think, when we look at Islam, and Islam obviously is built on the principles of fairness and justice and equality, and the ayat of the Quran is very, very clear with
Yes,
regard to polygamous marriage. You can marry two, three, or four, but the
yes,
key issue here is to be fair, to be just, and to treat equally. And just looking at it from a woman's perspective, and I mean, would that ever cross your mind that, he is treating me more fairly than the other, or treating me better, or treating me unfairly compared to the other? And I mean, do those type of discussions actually come up, or is it that second or the third marriage is taking place for the wrong reasons, and these things don't matter in terms of justice and fairness?
everybody wants to be treated just and fairly. So you will see that the balance is not always equal. Sometimes it's more for the first wife, sometimes it's more for the second wife. But I think in my case, it was like I had a house, I had everything I needed. I had two kids, so and I had the business was in our name. So he would spend for her, and he would do for her, and he would take her on holidays. So we did everything separately. We didn't have to do combined, so we he kept it separately so that he could do things with us and he could do things with her. But everyone always feels no, he's doing more for the other, because we're not seeing, we're not visibly there to see everything. So um, so we always feel, I think we always feel we want more and it's not enough. But I think the not enough part is more the emotional connection is what's so important to me. I didn't have that emotional connection that I wanted, but so I decided I will be a father and a mother for my kids. I will be there for them. I will make them the part of my life. Like he's there, but he's hardly there at that time. And then and he would spend time on the other side. So we had days that we would meet, that he would stay with me, days he would stay with her. So we had to these are all the finer details of how to balance this relationship. But we always feel like it's more on the other side somehow. I can't because I didn't have a whole picture of everything because he would hide stuff and so it's difficult to say.
Yes, and I think before I get to this other book that we want to talk about, Fatima, just
Yes,
finally, while we are talking about Be You Unapologetically,
yes,
you speak about commandments that you live by
yes,
and have proved to be worthwhile in adopting,
yes,
and more, as a form of motivation, as a form of inspiration, and also
yes,
advice to women, where you speak about some of these commandments. You speak about never settle for mediocrity. You speak
yes,
about creating your own happiness. You speak about living without regrets, about the habit of gratitude. Now, these are extremely important, what you're saying, because they mean just so much. And perhaps we just want to talk a bit about these commandments, but more as a word of advice in terms of how they've actually shaped your thinking, how you've been motivated, how you've been inspired to get to where you are before we speak about the next book we want to talk about.
Yes. So, never settle for mediocrity. That comes from Tony Robbins, and what it actually means is never lose your own values and stuff. Don't just become um, it's very easy to sink, but you keep on raising your standards for yourself. It's very, very important. So you keep on growing. Don't just settle for less, because you like building your character. Do not become mediocre. Do not become less than who you are. If you believe on honesty, then don't drop that. Don't drop that level that you've kept for yourself. If you believe in my core values are integrity, commitment. If I commit to something, I'm not going to just break it. I'm not going to just let it go, because I have a commitment. These are my core values, and respect and these kind of things. I don't just speak to like elder people, even if they're rude. You don't just disrespect them. These are values that I learned. I'm not going to just drop them because I'm going through some challenge. So you gotta grow with everything else around you and keep yourself up. So that's one thing, and then never live with regrets. So don't do anything that you might regret later. So I always ask myself this question: will I regret this whatever I'm doing? And if the answer is no, then it's good. I'm going to go ahead. And if I feel that if the answer is going to be yes, then I'll just leave it and just find a better solution. So that always helps me never to look back and say, I wish I did this and I wish I did this and I wish I did, because the time is already gone. The opportunities have passed. So I always remember that once the opportunity comes, it comes, and then if you don't take it, it's gone. You may not get that opportunity again. So, and that's just some of them. And then gratitude, be grateful for what you have, because even though the situation may be bleak, there's still a lot that is within your situation that you can be thankful to Allah for. Your health, for my children. Some people don't even have kids. For the opportunities that I got, and now my husband is so wonderful. He supports me through everything. He supports me through this whole book. He even wrote a little note for me, and he encourages me. So I mean, the tables have turned, and his previous marriage has disintegrated, but we still together, and our family still together, and now the children of the other family comes to visit. So we've managed to create this. Our kids are closer now, but because I've grown within myself, I feel if you learn and live with the correct principles, it can only bring you higher and going to make you more successful. I don't think we should just throw out everything because something went wrong in life. There's always an opportunity to grow, even in the difficult situations.
Well, Fatima, I would be doing an injustice if I didn't read this acknowledgement from your husband, A.K.
Yeah.
Rahman, because and just for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, I want to read out where he speaks about I have spent 28 years together with her. We had all the luxuries of life to a point where there was nothing left in our life. The reason for this is that I was a bit foolish and I made some wrong decisions in my life. Uh, there is my noble wife who stood like a warrior. She handled the whole situation, stood by my children and me. She brought back our sinking boat to sail smoothly again. She has done it with her love, passion, patience, and devoted courage. She is faithful to me, believing in herself and believing in her drive to make the wrong things right again. She made miracles happen. She is an amazing woman with incredible power and confidence to change her life. I learned so much from her. She changed me from a foolish man into a great man. She can make any family life like heaven. I love her eternally. Now, summed up so beautifully throughout all the challenges, throughout whatever you went through. And at the end of the day, to have an acknowledgement of this sort coming from your husband says that, you are truly appreciated, Fatima, and he appreciates you for who you are. And at the same time, acknowledging that he's made mistakes in his life. He was being foolish. And this is a lesson for us men, actually, that if you've made mistakes, admit it. Admit that you were a fool. Admit that you were wrong. Hey? And that can actually make miracles happen on its own.
Yes. I think the thing that worked really, that I felt very connected to him, was when we looked eye to eye and had deep conversations about what happened. and we could look at each other with forgiveness and love, even though it was past. But the hurts of the past doesn't heal so quick. But we had those moments, and that is special. That doesn't just come like that.
Right, Fatima, let's go. I know we don't have much time. In fact, there's just so much that we unpacked with Be You Unapologetically. Let's talk about your next book that's coming up.
Yes. Thank you so much. So this is a very, very special book. It's called Grail, Take Your Life Right with Purpose. And it has already been published. It's in India, but it's not myself alone. I'm co-author. I've co-authored it with 40 other coaches. So these are coaches and authors that have published their chapters into this book. And it's a book all about purpose and how it's about true stories about how each person has found their purpose, like I described myself and how I find my purpose. 40 of us as authors came together and wrote this book with each of our chapters, and each one is different. So whoever buys this book will find value in it, because it shows you that no matter where you are in life, if you have a purpose, you're able to get through your challenges. And if you just find your purpose and the reason for your living, you're able to make your life that much more meaningful and exciting, and you're able to have a drive. And now this book will be very good for, especially the for anyone that's looking for some direction, that's looking for some, most of us are lost. We don't even know what we want anymore. So if you are lost and you in any place in your life you're feeling lost, this is the book that would definitely help you. And also, it's the donation, the value of this book is, it's not even, the proceeds are not even coming to us authors. We have decided to donate it to, there's a, for children, a mental facility, and for old age, an old age home. And this is all based in India, because most of the coaches are from India, but it is basically over 5 continents. And it's made by 40 authors. So it's a beautiful book, and it's available on Amazon. And if you and you can also get it from me, I can order it for you if you're ready to order it for me. You can just let me know. And it's a brilliant book. So it's called Grail: Take Your Life Right with Purpose. And if you go on internet, you'll find it. It's advertised very clearly with a little bit of a write up of what it's about. So yeah, that's what I
Okay,
wanted to
and
share.
Be You Unapologetically, that's available as well on Amazon,
That
or
one's
how is that
that's
available?
an ebook on Amazon, but I've got the actual copies, like the one you've got. I've got them by me, so people can connect with me as well if they'd like to buy it. That is available, and I do have copies available. Yes.
Well, Jazakallah for that. Just before we take leave of you, Fatima, and I got to get ready for my next
Yes.
segment, final thoughts.
So I would just like women to know that, you know what, you do not have to focus on one area of your life. We have 4 quadrants. We have ourselves, we have business, we have career, and we have a life that we want to make. Make it balanced. Do not focus only on one side. Work on every area of your life and make each one grow for you, so that if one area collapses, you don't feel like a complete failure. You can still pick yourself up and move on, and fill yourself up with love. So find anything you can do to build yourself constantly, because if your cup is full, you can help yourself and you can help everyone else around you. That's all I want
Yes,
to
and
say.
just to remind our listeners and our viewers about the books that we have been talking about, and at the back of the book, I think this is important, where Fatima says this book is ideal for women who have experienced the victim side of infidelity or polygamous marriages, and the challenges and the triumphs of finding out their own identity, how to get through the pain and devastation and emerge confidently, being the best version of yourself. The only way out is through the challenge, the outcome to save your marriage and get the honor and respect that you deserve by expressing your highest values and living without regrets. Farima, I must say it's been an absolute pleasure, Alhamdulillah, this evening, engaging with you with this book. And I'm not sorry that when we met, we arranged to have this interview. I know we were due to have it a week or two earlier, but Alhamdulillah, we have finally had this opportunity. And there's just so much value a discussion and a conversation of this sort is had on Salam Media. And I'm sure that there are many people that can take a lot from this discussion, and more importantly, to get their hands on this book. Be You Unapologetically. And inshallah, we trust and hope that they get in touch with you for this book. But for now, we thank you. We say Jazakallah for your time. We wish you all the best, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Jazakallah for your time and for the opportunity. Thank you so much. Okay, Khuda Hafiz. Assalamu
Fatima Rahman with us this evening right here on Salam Media, the first part of the show, Wednesday night with myself, Inayet Wadee. And when we come back, we've got part two of the discussion, and then we are moving to a more political discussion and also some of the other issues with regard to South Africa. And we are taking a look ahead of the BRIC summit that is due to take place next month in South Africa. A quick break, and we will be back.